Life is full of uncertainties, challenges, and moments that make you feel as if everything is spiraling out of control. Your mind races, trying to solve problems that seem too big, trying to carry weights that were never meant for you to carry. You overthink, strategize, and worry about things that God has already taken care of. But hear this. God is already handling it. The battle you are stressing over has already been won. The situation you keep replaying in your mind has already been resolved in the heavens. Your future is already secured in His hands. Worry is the enemy's tool to distract you from your faith. When you overthink, you are placing more trust in your own ability to figure things out than in God's power to work things out. You are looking at the storm instead of the one who calms it. Overthinking is a sign that you are trying to take control of what only God can control. It is not your job to solve everything. It's your job to trust Him. Faith is not about having all the answers. It is about knowing that God does. It is about resting in the fact that He is always ahead of you, making a way where there seems to be none. When you overthink, you delay your peace. You prolong your struggle. But when you surrender, when you let go and let God, you walk in the assurance that nothing is too big for Him to handle. God never asked you to figure everything out. He asked you to trust Him. He never called you to stress. He called you to rest in Him. If He can hold the universe together, surely He can handle what concerns you. If He feeds the birds of the air and clothes the flowers of the field, surely He has already provided for you. Life often presents situations that seem overwhelming, leaving us questioning how things will work out. In these moments, the mind begins to race, trying to find solutions, searching for answers, and attempting to control the uncontrollable. But what we fail to realize is that God has already taken care of what we are worrying about. The things that consume our thoughts, keep us awake at night, and steal our peace are already in His hands. He has already set things in motion. Before we even encountered the problem, He had already provided the solution. Before we felt the weight of the burden, He had already made a way for relief. The challenge we see today has already been resolved in the spiritual realm. It is human nature to analyze, predict, and try to control outcomes. The mind seeks security and understanding, but faith does not require understanding, it requires trust. God operates beyond what we see, beyond what we know, and beyond what we can comprehend. What may seem like an unanswered question to us is already a completed work in His plan. The problem is not whether God has handled it. The problem is our inability to see beyond the present moment. We look at circumstances through the lens of human limitation, forgetting that God exists outside of time. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows the details that are hidden from us. What looks like a delay is actually divine timing. What feels like a setback is a setup for something greater. When worry takes hold, it blinds us to the truth that God is sovereign. It makes us believe that if we don't do something, nothing will change. But there are battles that are not ours to fight. There are burdens that were never meant for us to carry. Trying to handle what God has already taken care of only leads to frustration, anxiety, and exhaustion. The moment we let go of the need to control everything, we begin to experience the peace that was always available to us. God is not limited by circumstances. He is not constrained by human logic. The resources we think are missing are already in His plan. The opportunities we think we have lost are already being realigned for something better. What we thought was rejection was actually redirection. What we thought was an ending was actually the foundation for a new beginning. He works in ways we cannot see, through people we do not expect, and in places we never imagine. Nothing catches Him by surprise. He does not react to problems. He has already prepared solutions. He is not figuring things out as they unfold. He has already written the script. Worry stems from the belief that things are out of control, but nothing is out of God's control. Every detail of our lives is known to Him. every tear, every concern, every unspoken fear. He sees it all. And not only does he see, but he has already made a way. The answers we seek may not come in the way we expect, but they will come in the way that is best for us. When we look back on the moments we thought would break us, we realize that God had a plan all along. The times we worried unnecessarily were moments we could have spent in peace. Faith is not about seeing, it is about believing. It is about trusting that even in uncertainty, God is working. Even in the silence, He is moving. Even when we don't understand, He is orchestrating something greater. What we are worrying about today is already handled. The weight we are carrying has already been lifted. The situation that seems impossible has already been resolved in the heavens. It is only a matter of time before we see the manifestation of what God has already done. Overthinking is a subtle enemy that disguises itself as preparation, problem solving, and wisdom. It convinces you that if you think about something long enough, you will find a solution. But in reality, overthinking does not lead to solutions. It leads to fear, doubt, and anxiety. It pulls you into an endless cycle of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, making you believe that the weight of the outcome rests entirely on your shoulders. Overthinking takes a simple concern and turns it into an overwhelming burden. It magnifies problems, distorts reality, and shifts your focus away from the truth. The more you analyze, the more you begin to doubt, and before you know it, faith is pushed aside and replaced with uncertainty. Faith requires trust, but overthinking thrives on control. It is the need to understand everything before taking a step, the desire to predict every possible outcome before making a decision. When faith says God is in control, overthinking whispers, what if things go wrong? When faith says God will provide, overthinking counters, what if there is not enough? The moment you entertain these thoughts, fear begins to grow. Instead of believing in God's promises, you start questioning if they apply to you. Instead of moving forward in confidence, you hesitate, second-guessing every decision. Overthinking is not just a harmless habit. It is a form of doubt that slowly chips away at your trust in God. Worry and fear are the natural results of overthinking. The more you focus on your problems, the bigger they seem. The more you dwell on possible failures, the more impossible success appears. Fear thrives in uncertainty, and overthinking creates endless uncertainty. Instead of resting in the knowledge that God has already gone ahead of you, you try to figure out things He has already handled. You try to carry a load that was never meant for you. You try to handle a load that was never meant for you. The weight of what, ifs, unknowns, and doubts becomes heavier with each passing thought. Your energy is drained, your peace is stolen, and your mind is trapped in a cycle of worry. God never intended for you to live in a state of mental exhaustion. His plan has always been for you to walk in faith, to trust Him beyond what you can see, and to believe that He is working even when things do not make sense. But overthinking blocks this truth. It keeps your mind so occupied with problems that you forget to focus on the one who holds the solution. It distracts you from prayer, pulls you away from peace, and keeps you stuck in a loop of fear and hesitation. Overthinking also leads to missed opportunities. When you allow fear and doubt to dominate your mind, you hesitate to take action. You question whether you are making the right choice, whether you are good enough, whether you are prepared enough. Instead of stepping into the doors God has opened, you stand outside, analyzing every possible risk. The problem is, faith does not operate on human logic. It does not require you to have all the answers before moving forward. It requires you to trust that God has already gone before you. But overthinking tells you to wait until you feel ready, until things make sense, until you have complete certainty. And in waiting for the perfect moment, you end up delaying what God has already set in place. Fear and doubt will always try to compete with faith, but they can only take root if you give them space in your mind. Overthinking is not a sign of wisdom, it is a sign that fear has been given too much attention. The longer you dwell on fear, the more power it has over you. Instead of allowing faith to lead, you allow doubt to take control. Instead of believing that God is capable, you question whether He will truly come through. Overthinking is a battle that must be fought with trust. It is not about ignoring problems, but about shifting your focus from fear to faith, from doubt to confidence, from uncertainty to the unshakable truth that God is always in control. Trusting God means surrendering control, not figuring everything out. It is human nature to want to understand every detail before making a move, to analyze every possible outcome before taking a step. The mind craves certainty, and when things seem uncertain, fear begins to rise. But faith does not require certainty, it requires trust. Trust is not built on knowing every detail. It is built on confidence in the one who holds all the details. When you try to figure everything out before trusting God, you place more confidence in your own ability than in His sovereignty. You believe that peace comes from understanding, when in reality, peace comes from surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it is an act of faith. It is the ability to say, God, I do not understand, but I trust you. It is choosing to rest even when the situation is unclear. But surrender is difficult because it requires letting go. It means releasing control over things you desperately want to manage. It means giving up the need to dictate how and when things should happen. The moment you surrender, you acknowledge that God's plan is higher, His ways are greater, and His timing is perfect. The battle is no longer yours to fight because you recognize that He has already won it. Trying to figure everything out is exhausting. It drains your mind, steals your peace, and fills your heart with anxiety. You were never meant to carry the weight of solving every problem, making everything work, and predicting every outcome. God never asked you to take His place. He only asked you to trust Him. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. He understands the future in ways that your human mind never could. When you try to figure everything out, you limit yourself to human reasoning. But when you trust God, you open yourself up to divine wisdom. Fear often disguises itself as preparation. It convinces you that if you can just understand more, plan more, and analyze more, you will be safer. But the truth is, no amount of overthinking will ever give you the control you seek. Life will always have unknowns, and faith is choosing to walk forward despite them. It is believing that even though you do not have all the answers, God does. It is knowing that even when things do not make sense, they are still under His control. Fear tries to keep you stuck in cycles of doubt, but trust propels you forward in confidence. God does not require you to understand His plan. He only requires you to trust that He has one. There will be moments when things do not go as expected, when prayers seem unanswered, when doors appear closed. In those moments, the temptation will be to overanalyze, to question, to try to figure out why things are happening the way they are. But faith does not demand explanations. It rests in the assurance that God is always working behind the scenes. Trusting God does not mean ignoring reality. It means acknowledging that He is greater than reality. It means choosing to believe that no matter how uncertain things appear, He is still in control. It means shifting your focus from trying to solve everything to surrendering everything. When you stop trying to figure everything out, you allow God to do what only He can do. You step out of the way and let His plans unfold in His perfect time. Worrying about details that are already in His hands only delays your peace. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means stepping into a place of faith where God's power, wisdom, and provision can fully operate. Worry is a thief that robs you of peace, joy, and the ability to fully embrace the present moment. It convinces you that by constantly thinking about a problem, you are somehow taking control of it. But the truth is, worry does not solve anything. It only drains you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The more you dwell on what might go wrong, the less you are able to focus on what God is already making right. Worry keeps you trapped in a cycle of fear and doubt, preventing you from experiencing the fullness of God's provision and faithfulness. It delays the peace that is already available to you because it keeps your mind focused on problems rather than on the God who holds the solution. God never intended for you to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. He has already promised to provide for your needs, to guide your steps, and to work all things together for your good. But worry blinds you to these promises. It makes you question whether God will truly come through, whether He is paying attention, whether He even cares. The moment you allow these thoughts to take root, faith begins to shrink and doubt begins to grow. Instead of resting in the certainty of God's provision, you become consumed by the uncertainties of life. Instead of trusting His perfect timing, you try to force things to happen on your own. But faith and worry cannot exist in the same space. One must always give way to the other. Worry is a form of misplaced trust. It happens when you rely more on your own ability to fix things than on God's power to handle them. It is the belief that if you do not keep thinking about a problem, it will somehow get worse. But nothing is ever truly in your control. Only God has the power to direct outcomes. No amount of anxiety, overthinking, or planning can change what is already in His hands. The moment you realize this, you begin to understand that peace is a choice. It is the decision to shift your focus from what you cannot control to the one who controls everything. It is the willingness to trust that even when things do not look the way you expected, God is still working on your behalf. Faith is the key that activates God's provision in your life. It is what allows you to walk in peace even when circumstances seem uncertain. It is what enables you to move forward even when you do not see the full picture. Worry, on the other hand, keeps you stagnant. It keeps you stuck in fear, unable to take the next step because you are too busy imagining everything that could go wrong. But fear was never meant to lead your life. Faith was. Faith does not ignore reality. It simply acknowledges that God is greater than any reality you may face. It is not about denying challenges, but about recognizing that challenges are never bigger than God's ability to overcome them. When you spend your time worrying, you delay the blessings that are already prepared for you. God's provision is not based on your anxiety, it is based on His promises. The sooner you let go of fear, the sooner you step into the fullness of what He has already planned. The doors you are afraid will never open are already unlocked. You just have to trust and walk through them. The solutions you think do not exist are already in motion. You just have to believe and wait for them to unfold. God is not waiting for you to figure everything out before He moves. He is simply waiting for you to trust Him enough to stop worrying and start believing that He has already made a way. God is the creator and sustainer of the universe. He spoke the world into existence, set the stars in place, and commands the seasons to change. The sun rises and sets at His word. The oceans stay within their boundaries because He established them, and every breath you take is sustained by His power. If He can hold the vastness of the universe together, how much more can He handle the details of your life? There is nothing too great or too small for Him. Every concern, every challenge, every uncertainty you face is already within His control. The problem is never His ability. The problem is often your ability to trust Him fully. Fear has a way of making problems seem bigger than they are. It magnifies difficulties, creates doubt, and makes you feel as if you are carrying the weight of the world alone. But you were never meant to carry burdens by yourself. The same God who holds the universe together is holding you. He knows every thought before you think it, every worry before you feel it, and every need before you even ask. There is nothing that surprises Him, nothing that is beyond His reach, and nothing He has not already made provision for. The struggles that seem overwhelming to you are already resolved in His plan. The things that seem impossible are completely possible in His hands. God's power is limitless. Human understanding is finite. When you try to rely on your own strength, you will always come up short. You will always feel like you are missing something, like you do not have enough resources, wisdom, or ability. But God does not operate within human limitations. What seems like an obstacle to you is nothing to Him. What appears unsolvable to you has already been worked out in His divine plan. The more you focus on your own strength, the more inadequate you will feel. But the moment you shift your focus to God's strength, everything changes. You begin to realize that it was never about your ability, but about His power working in and through you. Nothing is too complicated for God to handle. Nothing is too far gone for Him to restore. He does not just make a way, He is the way. He does not just provide, He is provision itself. He does not just heal, He is healing. Everything you need already exists in Him. The same God who fed thousands with a few loaves and fish, who parted the Red Sea, who raised the dead to life, is the same God working in your life today. If He could do all of that, why would He not be able to handle your situation? If He has proven His faithfulness throughout history, why would He fail you now? Doubt is a distraction. It pulls your attention away from God's promises and causes you to focus on problems instead of solutions. But faith reminds you that God is still in control. He is still moving, still working, still answering prayers. When you doubt His ability, you limit your faith. When you allow fear to take over, you miss out on the peace He has already provided. Trusting in Him does not mean you will never face challenges, but it does mean you never have to face them alone. It means knowing that no matter what happens, He is already ahead of you, making a way. You do not have to figure everything out. You do not have to stress over what is already in God's hands. His track record is perfect, and His power is unmatched. He is not waiting for you to come up with solutions. He already has them. He is not expecting you to have all the answers. He is the answer. When you truly believe this, you will no longer carry burdens that were never meant for you. You will no longer spend your energy worrying about things that God has already taken care of. You will learn to rest in the fact that He is in control. And because He is in control, you have nothing to fear. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do because human nature seeks control. The mind wants to plan, predict, and ensure that everything unfolds in a way that feels safe and secure. But the more you try to control everything, the more stress and anxiety you invite into your life. The need to overanalyze every detail, to constantly question every outcome, and to anticipate every possible problem only leads to mental exhaustion. Overthinking does not bring peace. It brings confusion. It does not provide solutions. It creates more questions. The weight of trying to figure out everything on your own is unnecessary because God never intended for you to carry that burden. He has already made a way, already handled the details, and already prepared the answers you seek. God operates in divine order, and His ways are higher than human understanding. What may seem unclear to you is already set in motion in His plan. The more you try to overthink and control, the less you are able to see His hand at work. Faith is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting that God does. The very things that cause worry and sleepless nights are the things He has already taken care of. The outcomes you fear, the uncertainties you dread, the things you keep replaying in your mind are already in His control. But peace cannot enter a heart that refuses to let go. As long as you hold on to fear, doubt, and worry, you block yourself from experiencing the fullness of God's provision. Trusting God requires a shift in focus. Instead of asking, what if things go wrong? Start asking, what if God is already making things right? Instead of thinking about everything that could fall apart, remind yourself that nothing falls apart when it is in God's hands. The same God who holds the universe together is holding your life together. The details that seem uncertain to you are completely known to Him. What feels overwhelming in your mind is already settled in His divine plan. The moment you stop overanalyzing and start resting in faith, you step into the peace that has been available to you all along. God does not require your overthinking. He requires your trust. He is not asking you to have everything figured out before you move forward. He is simply asking you to trust that He already has everything worked out. The longer you try to control the situation, the longer you delay what He is trying to do in your life. His timing is perfect. His ways are beyond human understanding, and His provision is already set in place. The peace you are searching for is found in surrender. It is found in the decision to release your fears, your doubts, and your need to control every outcome. Overthinking is a distraction. It keeps you so focused on the problem that you fail to see the solution. It keeps you so consumed with fear that you miss out on the blessings that are already unfolding. The moment you stop overanalyzing and start trusting, you begin to experience the freedom that comes with faith. The weight you have been carrying is unnecessary. The stress you have been feeling is avoidable. The confusion that has been clouding your mind is not from God. He has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Worry leads to exhaustion, but faith leads to peace. Fear keeps you stuck, but trust moves you forward. Nothing is uncertain to God. Nothing is outside of His control. Nothing is beyond His reach. The same God who created the heavens and the earth, who provides for every living creature, and who has guided your life up to this moment, will not fail you now. You do not have to figure everything out. You do not have to stress over what has already been handled. The only thing required of you is to believe, to trust, and to let go of what was never yours to carry in the first place. The peace you seek has never been found in overthinking, worry, or the need to control. It has always been found in trust. Trusting that God has already gone before you, that He has already made a way, and that He is working all things together for your good. The burdens you carry were never meant for you. The battles you are trying to fight have already been won. Every fear, every doubt, every uncertainty is powerless in the presence of His perfect plan. Let go of the need to figure everything out and step into the rest that has been waiting for you. The moment you release control is the moment you make room for His peace. Stop overthinking. Stop doubting. Stop carrying what God has already handled. He has never failed you before, and He will not fail you now.